Hello, hello. It is February 4th, not January, February 4th, 2026. I just finished the Lone Wolf Week 8 match, and like a dumbass I am, I forgot to hit record, even though I thought I was, but I wasn't. Oops. So I'll do a recap style video. Hopefully, I'll stretch it out to 2 hours. That's not going to happen, but I'll stretch it out because I will also be putting in my thoughts and analysis into this LeechS study on the right side here. I mean, obviously you can't see it's a study, but I've blocked out the um, any information spoiling the result. Well, that's not a spoiler, so that's fine. What the hell happened? All right. But my opponent was named Lord Braska, 2044 Lichess. I think his profile showed he was 1900 FIDE, so definitely a strong opponent. When I was doing the prep, so I guess that's what I'll go over first. When I was doing the prep, he had no games against this move order of d4, knight f6, knight f3, d5, g3. E3 is what I played in the game, and I'll explain that in a bit. But he has no moves against this move order, or no games. I was looking at some of his other like openings. So like if I went c4 and move 2, which I don't do, I go c4 on move 6 after g3, bishop g2, knight f3, castle. Or is that 5? Whatever. 6, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. But against c4, I notice he plays a lot of e6, and against knight f3, he'll play c5. Now, I don't love this position. I don't particularly like Benoni's. Like, I know how to play against them, but I don't particularly like playing them because I feel like I'm missing. I'm not really deeply understanding the middle game idea enough. Like, I don't quite understand how the pawn breaks should go. Like, I know you want to, like, so I'll show you what I mean by Benoni. Let's just say, I don't know, here, castle, here. I don't know, like here, castle. All right, like we'll get a position like this, and it's like, yeah, I know that white wants to go f4, e5, trade, and then push these pawns down the middle of the board. Obviously not right away. Well, you could do it right away, but you want to push these pawns down the center. Black wants to push these pawns down the queen side, and it's like a double-edged kind of game. I just didn't really want to go into that because I'm not like super confident. Like I'm like mildly confident, but not like super confident. So I was looking at like other move orders. I was even looking at knight f3 on move 1, but I think he just goes knight f6 anyway, and we would have just gotten to this in a different move order. So I was just like, okay. I considered knight f3, although I think he plays d5 first. G6, or sorry, g3, but I think still we would get something like this. I don't remember exactly what he played here. I looked at it. I don't remember it. But eventually, as I was combing through like different move orders and different things he might play, I eventually found that he, against e3, Akali, he goes into a very symmetrical kind of position. And in the many blitz games where I've messed around with Akali, I was just like, I mean, he plays into the main ideas, which I like. So I was like, all right, I'll try it out. So I played e3. Now in the game, he continued almost exactly how I thought he would continue. So I'll zoom through it a little bit. E6, bishop d3, getting the bishop on a nice diagonal that'll point towards the king side later in the game. B6, which is one of the ways to play. I know c5 immediately is another way. I don't remember much else past that. I went with b3, which I know isn't necessary, but this is like one of the systems. This is the Kali Zilkutort system, where you fianchetto this bishop instead of keeping it behind this pawn chain. And one of the ideas, well, first of all, one of the ideas of b3 is against the immediate c5, so that c4 is not possible. But the other idea behind b3 is to fianchetto your bishop so that you can play like a sort of stonewall-y kind of thing where you go knight e4, f4, bring the queen over, rook lift, and attack. Yeah, so bishop b2, bishop d6, I kind of expected all of this. He had like one game going down this line, and this is exactly how it went. I don't remember if the move order was exactly the same, but this was like the general position. So knight bd2, just overprotecting the knight. Not that this knight is going to be captured in any way, but you don't really want your knight on c3 because you're blocking your bishop. You would have to spend another move playing knight e2 in order to play knight e4, which waste of time. And I don't think you really want the knight on e2. It also stops this. Well, I wouldn't say it stops, but it also puts pressure and gets some control of e4 when black wants to play knight e4 as well. Because we're going to get into a stonewall kind of position, as you'll see in just a bit. So castle, knight bd7. So this is what I was talking about, where it's a very symmetrical structure. Like you can kind of see like black's position in pieces look exactly like how white's position is, right? Like queenside fianchetto, centralized bishop, knight behind the bishop, knight on f3, f6, queen in the middle, castled. No other like pawn structure is symmetrical. Yeah, so I knew we were going to get this position, and I was kind of happy with going forward with knight e5, which is one of the two thematic ways to play the Kali Zukertort. The other move is c4, but after something like c5, we can get like a very funny position. Either I can take or I can give my opponent hanging pawn structure, so something like this, where he has two pawns connected or adjacent, controlling a lot of these squares. But at the same time, they can turn into a weakness if I somehow provoke him into going like this. Now this pawn is backwards and forever weak, and this pawn can't really push forward without this pawn going forward, but then this pawn coming forward makes this weak, so it's like very bad. That's the TLDR of this hanging pawn structure. Usually it's C and D pawns because you'll get positions like this where these trades happen. But yeah, that's how you play hanging pawn structure. I don't like hanging pawn structures. I don't play any openings that go into the hanging pawns, so I did not want to play c4 right away. So I played knight e5. This, like I've been saying, this goes more into a stonewall kind of structure where I'm going to play f4, maybe bring this knight to f3, or I can play rook f3, rook h3, queen h5, and try to checkmate. But he goes knight e4, which I expected. He has one game going down this line, and in that game, which is what I was following, I went f3, kicking the knight away. He trades. Again, what I was expecting. And then he goes rook c8 after quite a long think. He spent like 5.5 minutes thinking about this. But to be fair, I think I played my next move pretty quickly, which was going kind of continuing into the stonewall kind of position, so f4. And yeah, I spent 15 seconds being like, yeah, f4. He played knight f6, which I kind of knew he would play, but I kind of forgot my prep at this point. I forgot how he likes to continue from this point forward. So from here, I was on my own. I knew that I wanted to go rook f3, rook h3, maybe some kind of queen coming over here. Now, obviously, I can't teleport my queen to h5 or h4 or whatever. So in order to prepare that, I played queen e1. Right now I'm preparing queen h4. I can start looking at rook f3, rook h3, and maybe I'll get some kind of kingside attack going. So we continue knight e4. I kind of missed this idea by black after I played f4, which is for him to put the other knight on on e4. Black still has the option to play f6 if he really wanted to. So that was kind of an oopsie on my part. I didn't really need to play f4 back here. Maybe I could have started with queen e1 first, or maybe queen f2 or queen e2 to try to trade off this bishop, maybe, if I really wanted to. I don't think I want to, but yeah, so maybe f4 wasn't necessary as it allows a later knight e4. So yeah, knight f6, queen e1, knight e4, and you're gonna see in the rest of this game that this knight is kind of annoying. It's not posing a problem in my position, but it's definitely not something I can easily get rid of, right? If you look at it, how do I get rid of this knight? I can trade off my bishop, but that, no, right? Just no. If I trade off my bishop, he has a nice pawn controlling these light squares. I have no more light squared bishop, so now these light squares are weak. Well, yeah, right. And also, the bishop was doing a nice job of pointing at h7, which is one of the weak points in these kinds of positions when black is castled. And he doesn't have a knight on f6, which I guess that was part of trading. So, but he could easily put the knight back on f6 to defend h7 if he really needed to. Yeah, so trading here was definitely not part of the plan. It's also my good bishop because after this, f5, he played f5 later. But after this exchange, you can also notice that my bishop is kind of stuck behind his pawn. I could sack the pawn, but is that really helping me? I don't think so, because after this, just say like here, well, first of all, this pawn's already defended, so he doesn't have to defend it again. He can do something like this, make this pawn weak, and then also play for c5, d4, and like barrel down the middle of the board. So yeah, don't want to take there. I took a long time to think here as well, because I also was I was on my own, and I didn't really know how I want to play the position. It's clear that I don't have a kingside attack. I was really considering g4 here, but I thought g4 was a little too much, like, at the moment. There was also something here about g4 that I didn't like either. I'm trying to remember what it was. I thought there was a way for him to take this pawn. Maybe not in this position, but later. He could do something like this. Now, and then win this pawn. I don't remember exactly, but oh, it was in this position. I was thinking about g4, so let me get rid of that. In this position, I was thinking about g4, but no, because like I just said, he wins this pawn here. I can try to win it. Well, actually, how do I win this pawn back, right? This knight is controlling this square, the queen is controlling that square, so I can't easily attack it. And also he has a5 coming, or h5 coming. So one of the ideas I had was something like take here, but then h5, and I'm not really breaking through. Like, I guess I can try to go for h3, but I'm looking at this position and this doesn't feel right. I don't know how else to describe it other than this doesn't feel right. Maybe he can somehow take here, and I don't know. Maybe there's a way for him to like get in. But yeah, I didn't like the idea. It looked a little too far-fetched. So I went with c4, which was that other idea that I was talking about in these Zukertort systems. You know, it's like one of your two pawn breaks that remain in the position, the other one being g4, which, you know, as we discussed, I discarded because of this tactic, and it weakens my king, and oops, it didn't look very good. So I played c4. He played d takes, and now here I had another decent thing. I have many ways to recapture this pawn, right? I have knight takes, I have bishop takes, I have pawn takes, and I have rook takes. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't even see rook takes in the game, which I think this might even be a blunder, just looking at it quickly. this might be... I mean, this is definitely looking wrong. Yeah, so I think this just loses the exchange. Yeah, this doesn't look right. Yeah, I didn't actually see rook c4 in the game, but it looks pretty bad, so I'm just gonna pretend that I saw it and decided not to. So knight c4, right? This was my first, like, after looking at each idea briefly, this was what I thought I was going to play. And the reason is this puts pressure on the dark colored bishop, which is black's good bishop in this position. Right, because a lot of his central pawns are on light squares, he doesn't really want the light squared. I wouldn't say he doesn't want it, but like, yeah, it's kind of meh. Right, kind of like how my light squared bishop is the good bishop because it complements these pawns. This bishop complements these pawns. Now, both of our bishops are being blockaded by pawns, but you get the idea, right? Okay, continuing on. Now, one of the other options was b takes c4, which I kind of had a hard time evaluating this one. Like, it looked okay, but I just didn't know how good this was. So one of the continuations I saw that I wasn't particularly fond of was actually just simply knight of 6. Knight of 6 back, and now this bishop is really strong. Now I could go here and mirror that, but there was something about this I didn't like. I don't remember what it was. What didn't I like about this? I'm wondering if black can take here. Maybe rook f3, maybe even g takes, honestly. G takes. Okay. But aside from knight of 6, I just felt like it was hard to make progress in the middle, right? Because if, let's say he takes here, getting rid of my outposted knight, I have to take with the f pawn, right? Because this, that. And then taking with the f pawn, and now looking at this position, I don't really know how to evaluate this, right? Obviously capturing here looks pretty bad because his bishop captures, and I have immediate dark squared weaknesses. And it's like, how to continue from here? This pawn is going to be weird. I can't get rid of this knight very easily. If I trade it off with my light squared bishop, the black's light squared bishop lands on e4, and I have massive light squared weaknesses. Yeah, so I didn't like that either. Rook c4 we already discussed. Bishop a6 I think just tactically fails. It's a quick engine check. It's equal. What? Rook c2 take? Oh, knight takes. Hello. Durr. All right. All right. Equal tiniest of edge for black. Good to know. All right. Yeah, I totally missed this backwards move. Whoopsies. All right. But anyway, I played bishop c4 in the game, right? With the idea of, that is what WTIO means, with the idea of pressuring e6. That's really it. I just wanted to pressure e6. This is something you have to respond to. My opponent played bishop d5 in the game to block that. And here again, I'm like, trading doesn't feel right because this is my good bishop. You could argue this is his bad bishop, but at the same time, his bishop is also quite strong on this diagonal. Instinctively, I didn't want to trade because this is white's, quote, good bishop. Although it can be said that the trade is worth it because black's light squared bishop is quite strong now that he doesn't have a d5 pawn. I considered bishop b5 as well. He can't go here, obviously, so we'd have to go like bishop b7. And then from here, I wasn't really sure. Not sure how to proceed from here. Also, a6 is an idea for black to kick the bishop away. Like I could have tried this, then something like I don't know, queen f6 here doesn't work. Yeah, queen f6 and then what? Yeah, so like from this position, I wasn't really sure how this is an improvement. Also because after another move, let's say bishop a2, something like h6 here, there. I'll move my bishop. Let's just say here, and it's like, what have I accomplished here? I guess you could argue my knight's on a good square. Actually, I do have this, but that's not forced, so he can go, not there. Where can he go? Here? Actually, this is looking better the more I look at it. I wonder, though. e7. I don't know. This is starting to get a little crazy, right? Or wait, no, that doesn't work. What am I saying? Anyway. Yeah, I consider bishop b5. I wasn't terribly convinced. Maybe it works, but I didn't see a clear advantage. This is probably decent, but I didn't see it. I ended up going bishop a6 just because, I mean, it's a simple one mover. This is really all I thought. Oh, this attacks the rook, right? And then after I played, I'm like, do I actually really want to trade the rook for the bishop, though? You know, that was a question that went through my mind, but I was like, you know what? I'll let him make a move, and then if the option presents itself, then I'll consider it. But for now, I didn't want to like overthink the position. It just was like making sure I'm not blundering anything. He ended up playing rook a8, so okay, I'm not even going to try to grab the exchange. But from here, again, I'm like, what am I doing in this position? I don't know. I went queen e2, supporting the bishop. I should note that he can't go here because I have this. And I thought, okay, even though I lost my good bishop, I have great pressure down the c file. And also I traded off his. I also traded off black's. So it's roughly equal. But I get control of the c file afterwards, which is good. Yeah, so from this position, I could probably look for like queen c1, not queen c1, not queen c4 because of knight d2, but queen c1 at least is a good start. Maybe I'll play here, just sack a pawn, open this up. But yeah, I was happy with getting the c file if that were to happen. But after queen e2, he played rook f6. I was like, okay, is he actually threatening to go rook h6, queen h4, and try to threaten mate? Kind of like how I wanted to go rook f3, rook h3, and then queen h5. Queen was on d1, right? Kind of like how I wanted to at the beginning. I was like, oh, is black really threatening to do this to me? And I'm like, maybe, because one of the things he could do is, let's just say I go, I don't know, let's just say a move, random move, right? I was like thinking, can he actually do this? And then something like rook h6, and then maybe try to come down here, provoke a weakness, move the knight out of the way, and like threaten here. So I was like, this looks vaguely possible for black. And like my pieces aren't exactly in good positions to defend my king, right? Like my queen is okay. I could probably play like queen c2 or queen rook f2, maybe even queen c2, or queen f2. But I was thinking like, okay, rook c2, rook f2. Like, how else can I defend really? It's not easy. Again, I don't want to trade here because he gets ideas of pointing at g2, and all my light squares are just really weak. So I thought, okay, I think black's attack is a little more possible. So I'm going to play knight back to f3 to defend h2, just prophylactic in case he does go like rook h6. But then he went rook g6. I was actually thinking of going back to e5, but obviously he just trades and I don't really accomplish anything. And he can also go queen h4 now because my knight is no longer here. So I was like, okay, rook g2. There's no immediate threat, but I kind of want to trade off some pieces just to make his attack less powerful, or to stop it, really. So I played bishop c4. One of the ideas was that if he trades, I can retake with the queen. And now I have this c file to work with. I can look for ways to disrupt blacks in the center with like d5, right? Opening this up, putting some pressure on these pawns. Also, pushing the pawn to d5 allows me to go like knight d4, which could be useful to attack the center, put pressure on these pawns. So that's what I wanted. But obviously, we don't always get what we want. He played bishop b7. I wanted to take on d6, but his rook's defending it, so that's out of the question. Knight g5 also came across my mind, but simply knight takes, pawn takes, rook takes, and I'm down a pawn for no reason, and I also opened up his bishops, so that's a no-go. I ended up going with rook fd1. Again, I don't see an attack yet for black, right? His queen cannot come to any of these squares. I guess he can go to f6, but like, what is it really doing on f6? Not much. If he spends another tempo on rook h6, I mean, sure, but like, why didn't you just play that in the beginning, right? You just wasted a tempo. One tempo, whatever. So I just played rook fd1. I'm going to try to push in the center with d5 because, like I mentioned in the previous example, opening up my dark squared bishop, poking at the weakness on e6, and maybe if we trade, I get open lines. He played bishop d5 back, which I thought was kind of interesting because he's basically like given me a free move, right? If we consider the position with bishop c4, after he played bishop d5, it's the same position, except I've gotten an extra move in, and it's my turn again. So, like, he just wasted a lot of time with going back to d5. He probably saw something he didn't like, namely the d5 push, so he wanted to force me to trade and then close it down. which I did end up doing. But one of the things I realized was like, okay, even though I traded off my good bishop, which I've been touting this entire time, I don't have light squared weaknesses because he doesn't have a light squared bishop. The center is still closed. Like, this bishop can't do anything yet. This knight is still quite strong, but I can very quickly play knight d2, try to trade it off. And if he puts a pawn on e4, then he doesn't have anything attacking e5, or e3, sorry, right? Because the pawn's in the way, you can't put a rook there to pressure e3. And there's no way for this bishop to get to pressure this pawn unless you go like, you play g5, trade this off, and then go here, here, or like here, here. So I ended up playing g3. I was cognizant of this potential sacrifice, but again, this doesn't lead anywhere, right? There's no queen g5, there's no queen h4. He would have to spend 2 tempi to get it into action, so something like here. Maybe here. And I mean, you don't want to go queen h6 and trade, I don't think. If you go here, I can do this, you know? So, g3, I was cognizant he can sack his knight, but I don't think sacking his knight is a good idea. He went queen d7. I didn't really understand what his idea was, like, at all. Maybe he's trying to bring this rook in, but it wasn't threatening my position. He wasn't threatening to infiltrate on the king side. There's nothing over here. So I was like, okay, fine. Queen d7 doesn't really put pressure on my position. So I continued with knight d2. I want to trade off this knight. It's kind of like the last good piece in black's position. Now, obviously, black's going to defend it. He could trade with one of the pawns, but that kind of closes the position down and doesn't really cause me any problems, right? Like, let's just say here, something like this. Like, I thought this was fine, right? Like, yeah, you get queen h3, but I have queen g2. If something like this were to happen, maybe I would consider going king f2, maybe bring the rooks over here, expand on this side, right? That probably would have been my plan. Yeah, but he ended up taking himself, which, you know, now that I'm looking at it, it does make a lot of sense. He's creating this weakness for me on e3. At the same time, it's on a dark square, so this bishop can defend it. If black were to find some crazy way to attack this pawn with his bishop, I would have enough defenders and we'd probably get into some weird standstill. But, you know, it's just like, whatever, it's fine. I played rook takes d2. I could have played queen takes, but I wanted to double up my rooks at some point, right? Also because I have the c file. So rook d2 just makes a lot more sense. So yeah, trying to double up here. And if I really need to, I can also play like this rook and then this bishop and move this rook over. So rook e8. Again, he's pressuring my e3 pawn. I played queen f3. Oh, there was also a tactic here. If I just make a random move. He was threatening bishop takes f4. I can't take this way because of the pin, and then I can't take this way because of the pin. So, yeah, that was the tactic I had to be aware of. So I played queen f3, getting out of the way. Queen g2 was another idea. I don't really know the difference. I guess the difference is that there's an alignment here, and maybe black can go for like h5, h4. Maybe. But that still seems kind of far-fetched. So after queen f3, he played queen e6, adding pressure. Rook e2. I could have also played rook e1. Is there a difference? I don't think so. Maybe there's a world where if I play rook e1, this rook is not defended. It also, I would have to spend another move to move this rook to c2. So maybe rook e2 makes more sense. Um, slower because I don't have c-file control anymore, and also maybe there's a world where my rook e1 isn't defended to some thing. Oh wait, there's bishop b4, huh? Oh yeah, there's just bishop b4. It doesn't work. Do 2. Bishop b4. Duh. All right. I'm glad I figured that out. I don't remember if I saw that in the game. But anyway, a5. I guess he's gaining queenside space. Like he could also set up some kind of bishop b4, but I can also just play a3 right now. Like I don't have to react to this move. It doesn't actually do anything. I don't need to play a4 because that just creates an outpost for the bishop. So I was like, okay, let me get active. Let me play rook c6, right? Aligning here. And this rook is actually really hard to get rid of, right? If you play queen c7, right, you're no longer pressuring the e3 pawn as much, so I can double up and play rook ec2. And then if you put this rook here, I have bishop c1 defending. And you can't really attack this pawn. I guess you can try this, but I can go here, right? I don't even, like, I could take and then take, but like, why would I do this, right? So I can just go bishop d2. If you go here, I mean, I can trade and probably just, or actually, wait, hold on. Bishop a3. I could take here first. And then go here. And then if this, I can go take, maybe he'll want to trade. No. You have to go here. And I think this is still better for me because I have, right, let's just say, oh no, I can just take right away. Right, and he can go like here, but I'm not going to trade. And if he wants to do this, I have rook f2, and then after something like here, I mean, anyway, rook c6, rook c6. He goes queen e4, offering the queen trade. And I did think about this for a little bit. Like, do I really want a queen trade? He's probably going to take back with the rook. At the same time, I was like, okay, I kind of want to simplify this position. I don't think anyone is really going to have an advantage. And I feel like he has more opportunities to outplay me than I do of him just because he's a stronger player. So I did end up just taking on e4. Maybe I'll do this and hide the spoilers for now. I play, he took back with the rook, obviously maintaining pressure on the pawn here. I went bishop c1 to protect, because now if he plays rook, g e6, I even had ideas of going rook c2, right? So like if you went here, I was even considering going here. And if you ever want to take, you're losing in exchange for it, right? So like here, here, here. And then, I don't know, is this better for black or is white winning? I'm not sure. I can go here, defend this, and it's like, what do you do as black now? Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out a plan in my opinion, but maybe there's a way to break forward. Yeah, so bishop c1. He played h5. And I'm like, okay, I'm guessing you're trying to come through with h4. But again, I don't need to react. I don't know why I said again. I don't need to react like it did with this a5 move, right? Like, it gains space, technically speaking, but it doesn't threaten anything. Like, I'm not scared of h4 because I can just move my king out of the way, and if he takes it, I'll take back with the pawn. It's fine. So after h5, I also noticed that this rook is no longer defended, and the bishop is being x-rayed. So I found this nifty move here, bishop a3. And I had to calculate that to make sure this worked, right? So I thought for quite a while, because there was something I saw after take, you know, it looks like, oh, maybe black can go bishop c1 and finally attack this pawn, but I have here, and if he ever tries to chase my rook away, I'll run, and then he's got to move the bishop again, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like, I'm all good. But after rook takes c6, I realized that he might have some trickiness going on. Instead of bishop c1 to pressure the pawn, he can just go back to d6. And it's like, okay, so what? The so what is my rook is getting trapped, right? So if you think about it, I don't have any square to go to. I mean, I do, but it's not going to be good, right? So obviously I'm not going here or here because the pawn protects. I'm not going here or here because those are defended by black. I'm not taking here. So I only have one move, right? So I need to be careful because also king f7 is coming. So if I just make a silly move like king f2, king f7, rook g5, and now g6, and my rook is entombed. My rook is stuck. And I'm like, okay, that cannot be good for white. Also because bishop e7 is coming. All right, and I'm just going to lose an exchange. So I was like, okay, I actually have to be careful with bishop a3 because I could get into this position and lose the exchange, which I don't really want to do. So after bishop a3, if he takes and I take and he goes here, threatening this whole situation, I was actually ready to sack the exchange back. Now he takes back with the pawn, but this I thought was better for me because I have king f2, right? The idea is that I want to go rook c2 and control the c file, but I can't because I lose my pawn. So if I go king f2 first, he doesn't have time to control the c file because he's got to go back. And now I thought, okay, this looks better for black. I mean, better for white. He's got double isolated pawns here. This pawn is backwards. I have rook c6 coming, and you can't defend everything, right? So let's just say, I don't know, rook b7 or d7. Either way, I'm playing rook c6. And this pawn falls, and then this pawn falls. So, okay, maybe you want to go here, but then still, same idea, right? And like, you don't have counterplay here at all. So, like, I don't know, what do you do here? Maybe king f7. I'll take this one. King, let's just say here. Now I have rook a7 or rook a6, and you can't defend this pawn anymore. Right, and now I'm up 2 pawns. I'll walk my king over. Sure, he gets control of the c file, but I thought this should still be okay. I mean, maybe I need to hide my king on h3, just so that he doesn't win these pawns and get counterplay. But after something like this, or even this, like, I felt like I should be fine, you know? And maybe I'll do something like go here. Oops. And I mean, this should be winning. So that's what I saw. After this bishop d6, I can just sack the exchange back, which I was just like, nice. Okay, so this does work. So I played bishop a3. He went back to play rook e7, and I had to recheck that this idea still works. Now I could take now, But I thought taking now didn't really do anything, because now I'm down a tempo. Yeah, I'm down a tempo compared to the position we just analyzed, and he gets the C file, right? Because if I go here, he goes there. And now it's not quite good for white. Actually, it might be worse. So after rook e7, I played king f2. Again, same ideas, right? If he takes here, I take here, and if he tries to do this, or sorry, if he tries to do this, I take, and I go here. This is defended. So king f2, again, keeping the idea of leaving this bishop to hang. He played rook d7 and offered me a draw. Now, I'm up a pawn. Well, no, I'm not up a pawn yet. No, I'm not up a pawn yet, sorry. He offered me a draw, and it's equal material and a symmetrical, well, it's almost a symmetrical pawn structure. I mean, I guess there is some difference, so it's not totally symmetrical. But I thought I had the initiative here because of this whole tactic idea thing, right? So I kept the game going with rook ec2. I thought I should have some initiative. I thought I could be better. Yeah, so I played rook c2, and again, this idea does not work, because now I win the pawn. Or if he takes this way, I do this, and we already analyzed this kind of position. So rook ec2, he played king f7. Now that this rook is defended, right, I don't have the tactic anymore. So I ended up deciding to just trade. I thought I could play bishop c1, but like that's just really passive. And I'm also never really threatening to win this pawn ever. So he played rook takes. I played rook takes c7, winning the pawn. I could have also done it this way. And after here, here, there, or sorry, here, because he had to defend this pawn. I mean, it's probably a draw. Like this pawn is backwards and can never push. So, yeah, I guess it did turn out to be a draw. I just thought I had the initiative, so let me just keep the game going a little bit. But in the end, we did get this kind of position. I played king e2, king g6. I don't know why you played king g6, but okay. I thought I could try to break through and get some kind of win with breaking through on these pawns and getting a favorable rook trade. King f6, b5, ab. He goes back to g6. I mean, what else to do, right? You gotta keep this pawn protected, and you can't really push this. I was wondering if he played here. No, that doesn't work because of this, and I would win the pawn. What else? I mean, what else can black do, right? Not much. So king g7. Yeah, maybe b5 was a mistake now that I'm looking at it. Maybe I should have tried to infiltrate this way. But then he has rook e6, right? So like if I try to go here, here, he can go here, and it's like I don't think this works I don't think this is good for white. So I did end up playing b5, right? Now my idea is to play here, force a trade, and try to promote this pawn. Although that doesn't even work because he has king f6. I bring my king forward. I could play this, but he'll just take and go forward and go here, win this pawn, and I don't think this is good for... I don't think this is good. Maybe it is. Hold on a sec. No, it's not good. What am I saying? I mean, this is not a draw because he'll come this way. Okay, so I played b5. He played king f6, just toggling back and forth. I tried to improve my king, but I kind of realized there was no point because there's no entryways here. He played g6 just to finally get that pawn out of the way of out of the rook's vision. I played h4 just to lock it all down. At this point, I was like accepting the fact that this is a draw because I can't really break forward. At least I didn't think I could. Because these pawn breaks just will not work, right? Yeah, so king e6, rook g7, pressuring the pawn. He defends. I go back, and we repeat. I actually technically offered a draw here, but I don't think he realized because he was kind of just like instant moving. And yeah, so we got a threefold repetition, and this game was a draw. Honestly, I was pretty okay with this game. I didn't feel like I had chances anywhere, but I also felt like neither did he. I mean, what to say, right? Played Kali Zukutor. Kind of went with the usual plans. I expected the game to go this way. Kind of lost my way. I don't know. Maybe this idea wasn't the best, but the game ended in a draw, so I'm not terribly mad about it. Let's get a computer analysis going, and we'll see what the computer has in store. It's totally possible I missed some stuff, but I really felt like I didn't have much. Okay, computer's showing that I was better in the end game. And then he was better towards the middle. Slightly better in the middle. I had an advantage in the end, really? It didn't feel that way. I mean, like, maybe it did, but I don't know. Okay, so it's saying here's where I had my best advantage, which is what I thought was the case. And here it's evaluating as +4. And I'm still better until h4. Okay. h4 was a blunder. King e2 was best. King e2, what does it say? King e6. b7. I don't understand. Rook b7. Why is he playing h4 though? Yeah, what if he just goes king e6? Here. 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 h3. Okay, we can do this nonsense again. Like, I'm not understanding how this is a win for black. Am I supposed to play g5 at some point? Or g4, I guess? But okay, so like, computer is saying that Yeah, I'm like not understanding why this is a win. I mean, like, yeah, if he does this, I'm winning, but like, what if he doesn't? What if he just sits? Oh. Do I actually have a breakthrough here? I guess I do. Oh. Okay, so I guess I did miss that. We needed to go here. Hmm. Alright. Maybe I did miss this. I mean, obviously I did, but it's like the computer's not clearly telling me why I missed what I missed, which is the annoying part. But okay, I guess I did have a breakthrough here. So let me go back. Hmm. This is getting confusing, but I'm guessing there's a breakthrough here with this, but like I don't understand if what if black doesn't actually take? Well, I mean here black is self-destructing. So I don't understand why the computer is recommending that. Take. And if I just wait, this is winning? Ah, because I've cut this off. Okay, so maybe I did have a win. Huh. Alright. Well, anyway. Yeah, I guess I was winning, but I didn't see it. Alright, well, that's week 8. At least I didn't lose, but man, I haven't had a win in forever, so this kind of sucks. But such is life. I'll see you guys in the next one.